So we're at the tower on the top of the hill. I just want to state that after the 2017 fires, when we were going through, like, where were we going to allocate some of the funds, the resilience funds that we had garnered, Johannes Hooverts, our head of Sonoma County Public Infrastructure, came and said, you know, I want to do some partnerships with the community and I want to build our resilience for our crews. And so he came and made a request for $1 to $3 million at the time for us to kind of support different projects. But this is another example where it's not really about what the county and the government put in. It's about the cooperation, the partnership, getting this permitted up here, the landowner allowing it, Jeff and others getting spots donated. I mean, this is just a true example. So take us away.
We have an awesome tower that is hosting fire camera system for early detection. It's hosting a GMRS repeater. We have cameras. It's got a North Bay area mesh, which is an intranet for emergency services. So this thing really opened up the possibilities for Northern Sonoma County. We're super proud of working with the community. It's the first grassroots movement. This has started from the bottom up, and we've had 100% support from Supervisor Bohr and the board from day one. This thing has been working for over 2 years. It's worked during the disasters. It's solar powered. We have access to it. We have a Starlink. We got solar panels on top. We have cameras. It's really, really a jewel for the North County, and we're really proud to bring it to the community.
We went ahead and said we're going to work out with some companies that produce this kind of combination of photo, which is cameras, and artificial intelligence, which is a way of monitoring 24/7 all of this equipment and capturing images until you see smoke, or with an infrared camera you see heat signatures. When there's a signal that there's been an actual ignition, that information will be transmitted to dispatch. Like all fire calls, it gets logged in as to the exact time, and also because they will be able to identify the exact azimuth, that's the direction on a compass, and the distance, we will be able to pinpoint precisely where the fire is. The cameras rotate continuously. There's two of them. They operate 180 degrees out of phase with one another, and they continually rotate. When one of them spots a fire, it can stop on the fire, but the other one continues to rotate to look for other fires nearby. The cameras are able to measure by heat signature and by color the intensity of the fire and also the flame length. Flame length is directly related to rate of spread, and of course weather and terrain affect where it's going. So it's just a whole complex of factors that we use to take the first responders and give them the best chance of beating the odds.
We have the NOAA weather satellites as part of the system, and the polar orbiting satellites, which only come over a few times a day, but they get better detail. So at any rate, the GOES data is coming in all the time. And normally in the western US during the summer, that reporting is at 1 minute intervals. And it can see a fire that's about an acre and a half, which is far bigger than the cameras can see, but it provides another input as to where the fire is, and it also gives a value of intensity. So between looking at the smoke column and looking at the intensity that the satellite measures, you get a growing understanding of how quickly the fire spread. All that stuff gets fused and made into a picture that the guys on the way to the fire can understand. They just have to look at the map and they're gonna know, I got a growing fire, or I got a fire that's not doing very much. This one's not doing very much, that one's doing a lot. This is where our priorities are, because look at the infrastructure that's threatened. So it's this idea of bringing not just the location of the fire, but what's threatened, how fast it's moving towards those things that are threatened. All of that intelligence becomes a smarter way to fight the problem of fires. Typically, when California suffers the really worst problems is after lightning fires. Yeah. And you only have a day after that starts when the cameras are really useful, because then it smokes up, and then the satellites really play their role. So these are very complementary, and the satellites don't do well on a cloudy day. So these things have to work together, and that's the whole idea, is bring different technologies and bring all the information you can to draw an intelligence picture.
After 2017, we also funded some out of the Board of Supervisors, some out of Sonoma Water, is a wildfire camera network that's online that people can look at, but there's gaps in it. And so what this is an example of like a private-public partnership where we have interoperability all around. But those fire camera networks also do not add the communications component that works not only for individuals, but also for a public agency that needs to deploy resources. And once again, this is like the key example is like the way you spell resilience is we. WE, right? It's not I as a Department of Emergency Management or fire or whatever. We've learned that that does not work. So what you have below us, as most people know, is we have heading out towards the Alexander Valley area. Then we have Russian River heading out this direction. We have Dry Creek over the hills there. All of these microclimates provide a completely different network. And that's the unique part of our county is that just like we have unique foods and wines and climates in all these areas, we have unique fire activity, unique flood zones. And so for me, the comment about also about dry lightning is really relevant because when we were in the middle of the pandemic and in 2020, we got in and we had the Walbridge fire, we had that dynamic lightning storm up and down the state. And that was a real example where, as opposed to the Pocket Fire in 2019, where we had the whole armada of the mutual aid system of California, and in many cases the rest of the states and places like Australia. During that event, there were more than 1,000 fires in California, so that was an example where we were on our own. And many of our firefighters were actually in other areas around the state. And so this is the point, is be able to take care of your own, be able to deploy CERT if needed to move logs, as opposed to everything having to be with somebody who is in a uniform with a badge. So having all of these different systems in place are super important.